very clear, too many innocent civilians have died, and
so
we've
therefore
been very...
you agree that the targeting is indiscriminate, therefore if too many civilians have died?
I'm not privy to the precise targeting, but what I can say is clear that too many innocent people have died in this conflict.
But you will have received advice from government lawyers and submissions. Have any of those submissions or any advice you've received from lawyers or anyone within number 10 suggested that international humanitarian law is being broken?
No, again, the government never comments on the legal advice it receives,
so forgive me, though,
what we will always do.
But forgive me, Prime Minister, your current Foreign Secretary, when he was Prime Minister, was quite happy to state when he felt that international humanitarian law was being broken in Syria. Equally, James Cleverly's Foreign Secretary was happy to say that war crimes are taking place in Ukraine. So surely there is a precedent that you are able to say, if you believe that too many civilians are dying, that bombings have been indiscriminate and therefore that the principles of necessity and proportionality are not being upheld.
You're putting words in my mouth. Others may have said that.
No, your exact words were too many civilians are dying. You've just repeated it here as well.
Yes, and now too many civilians are dying. Of course, too many civilians are dying. That is different from saying humanitarian law has been broken.
So
I think every civilian, quite frankly, every civilian dying is a tragedy.
But where does the responsibility sit for that decision making?
Sorry?
Where does the responsibility sit for too many civilians dying?
Well, I mean, again, ask Hamas why they embed themselves in civilian populations. I think that's genuinely an extraordinary question. Yeah. Responsibility for civilians dying. There's two sides to this. Israel is trying to defend itself by all our major allies.
Last night, as Tory MPs were once again fighting amongst themselves, the public were sat at home watching John Irvine of ITV News report on footage from Gaza of an unarmed Palestinian man walking under a white flag, being shot and killed by the IDF. Prime Minister, such an act constitutes a war crime, does it not?
Mr. Speaker, we've been absolutely consistent that international humanitarian law should be respected and civilians should be protected. I've made that point expressly to Prime Minister Netanyahu, and the Foreign Secretary is in the region this week making exactly the same point.
Stephen Clay.
Mr. Speaker, I don't think it's unreasonable to expect the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom to rise to that dispatch box and tell the people of these Isles and elsewhere that shooting an unarmed man walking under a white flag is a war crime. Now, in recent weeks, this House has acted with urgency and intent following an ITV drama. The question is, will this House now show the same urgency and intent following this ITV news report? And finally, back a ceasefire in Gaza.
Mr. Speaker, no one wants to see this conflict go on for a moment longer than necessary, and we do want to see an immediate and sustained humanitarian pause to get more aid in and, crucially, the hostages out, helping create the conditions for a sustainable ceasefire. I set out the conditions for that earlier in the House. The Foreign Secretary is in the region today and will continue to press all our allies and partners to make sure that we can bring about. We have tripled our humanitarian aid for this financial year to the region, and, as I said in the statement yesterday, are working with partners such as Jordan and the United States to open up new aid corridors so we can increase the supply of aid getting in to those who desperately need it.
In the week of the anniversary of Bloody Sunday, people in Derry are watching unarmed Palestinians being gunned down by Israeli soldiers. Over 25,000 people have now been slaughtered in Gaza. The Prime Minister says, and he said it again today, that he wants to see a sustained ceasefire. So my question is a very, very simple one. The next time there's a vote at the UN for a ceasefire, will his representative vote for it?
Well, Mr. Speaker, of course we'll engage with all UN resolutions on their merits, and I've been clear no one wants to see this conflict go on for a moment longer than is necessary. We do want to see an immediate pause so we can get aid in and hostages out, because the situation is desperate for many people there. But a sustainable, permanent ceasefire needs to fulfill a set of conditions, including Hamas releasing all of the hostages, Hamas no longer being in charge of Gaza with the threat of rocket attacks into Israel, and an agreement in place for the Palestinian Authority to return to Gaza to provide governance and services. The Foreign Secretary is in the region. Those are the principles on which we are working, and I believe...
/2024/173, please raise their hand.
Those against? Abstentions?